The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
The merciful. Assalamu alaikum. That means peace be unto you. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad, and you're viewing Liberated Sisters right here at Morris Media Studios, broadcasting at MorrisMediaLive.com. Also here on my Facebook page. Please host a watch party, invite somebody, but you don't want to miss today's show. It's jam-packed. So we're talking about Hail Elijah. Happy birthday to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Patriarch of the Nation of Islam. We're going to be hearing from Student Minister Demetric Muhammad later in the show about the most powerful black man in America. Also, we're going to start the show today. For those of you who are accustomed to Liberated Sisters, we're switching it around a little bit. And we're going to start out with the Farrakhan factor. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan himself issuing the 1995 historic Million Man March pledge right on the Mall at Washington, D.C. We're going to have that clip in the Farrakhan factor, and after that, the Justice Report. A lot is going on. So much is happening. We want to say our prayers and condolences go out to the family of Joshua Brown. He's the young man that testified in the case against Amber Geiger, the ex-cop. And look at that beautiful brother and his beautiful baby. This brother testified tearfully, emotionally in the trial against ex-cop Amber Geiger, and he was found shot dead. Attorney Lee Merritt has been talking about his case. We'll give you a little bit more about that in the Justice Report, as well as we're going to come from the Final Call newspaper, that bold black national weekly, the only national black weekly in the country. And also today, we're going to add some information from our own Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper as Liberated Sisters endeavors to highlight what's happening in the black press across the country. So now, here is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the Million Man March pledge in the Farrakhan Factor.
Take this pledge with me. Say with me, please. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will strive to love my brother as I love myself. I say your name. From this day forward, will strive to improve myself spiritually, morally, mentally, socially, politically, and economically, for the benefit of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that I will strive to build business, build houses, build hospitals, build factories, and enter into international trade for the good of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never raise my hand with a knife or a gun to beat, cut, or shoot any member of my family or any human being except in self-defense. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will never abuse my wife by striking her, disrespecting her, for she is the mother of my children and the producer of my future. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never engage in the abuse of children, little boys or little girls, for sexual gratification. But I will let them grow in peace to be strong men and women for the future of our people. I say your name. Will never again use the B word to describe any female, but particularly my own black sister. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward that I will not poison my body with drugs or that which is destructive to my health and my well-being. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will support black newspapers, black radio, black television. I will support black artists who clean up their acts to show respect for themselves and respect for their people and respect for the ears of the human family. I say your name. Will do all of this. So help me God.
Oh, wow. That is a phenomenal pledge. Let's take it every year. That's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan again issuing the 1995 historic Million Man March pledge to over 2 million black men, 2 million black men that answered his call. They were not just Muslims, everyone. There were Muslims, Christians, different faiths, Baptists. There were those who have subscribed to no faith tradition, but they turned out, they showed out, and there were many benefits that came out of that. They came back home and they went to work and they transformed their community. And you can read more about how at finalcall.com. So inshallah, which means God willing, or as we say in the South, God spare, right? God spare. We will hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on this Sunday, October 13th, which is the celebration of the 24th anniversary of the Million Man March. He will be speaking live from Christ Universal Temple in Chicago. So all praises due to Allah. That's the Farrakhan Factor. We're going to turn now to the Justice Report. But remember, we have Student Minister Demetric Muhammad coming up at the half mark to help us celebrate the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's birthday. Here is the Justice Report. Okay, I'm going to pace myself and focus because today's Justice Report, we're adding the Los Angeles Sentinel and soon thereafter in the coming weeks and months, other black press across the country, not just LA County, right? Just a few things that I want to highlight for you. So we're going to start out this Justice Report with the Final Call newspaper cover story, as we always do. Our writer, Brother Brian 18X Crawford, knocked it out of the ballpark with the cover story, and we have a collage here for you that I want to just sit right here for you to visualize, because these are some of the things that we're talking about. So pay to play. Brother Brian talks about how there are changes that may be on the horizon for the billion-dollar college sports industry, where athletes, look, they've historically earned nothing, but coaches, schools, conferences, and others are wallowing in profits. The question is raised, should and will athletes finally get paid? And Brother Brian delves into, in his story, how California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a law that enables athletes to get their just due financially. But he talks about how former UCLA Bruin Ed O'Bannon really led the charge with that here, dealing with a video game where he was long in the pros, but there were $60 video games being sold with their images and likenesses, only not their names, right? And so we want to make sure that that narrative is there and the history is there. If we could still keep that Final Call collage up, I want to go through. Thank you so much, sister, some of the stories. We have Watch the Weather at the top right corner. I want you to take advantage of this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a few years ago had the Final Call staff. He commissioned an entire edition dedicated to the weather because of the judgment of God that had entered America, that is here now, and how he would be moving with the weather as we see all of the different weather calamities taking place right now. And meteorologists, as Minister Farrakhan informed us when he spoke last week from Grand Rapids, they're not able to say and predict accurately what the weather is because God is judging America with the climate. And so there is a scan there. If you look at the bottom right corner of the very first picture on the right, Watch the Weather, hashtag Watch the Weather. If you go there, you can get that edition complimentary on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Final Call. Get it. He's trying to save as many of our lives as he can. Now, before I go to that centerpiece that you see there, the critical hour demands building a future for ourselves and our people, I want to go to the bottom shot, and this is all at finalcall.com, finalcall.com. We had Sister Beatrice X and her husband Cephas' Uncle Bobby X Johnson on the show last week, and we talked about the families gathering to heal, learn, and continue their painful fight for justice. This is the Families United for Justice annual conference that took place in Los Angeles. It was in 2019. The Love Not Blood campaign, Cephas' Uncle Bobby, as well as Sister Beatrice, they started this conference in 2014, so the history is there. So we want to highlight that because as we see more and more families being added to the list, there is a network where you are not alone and you do not have to walk that journey alone. And shout out to Student Minister Abdul Sabur Muhammad, formerly Keith Muhammad in Oakland, Mosque number 26B, who wrote out of the battle for justice for Oscar Grant, who was killed on a station platform by former BART officer Johannes Meserly. Grant Justice, Lessons Learned. So there were a lot of different things that took place that were unprecedented in the Grant case, and Brother Student Minister Abdul Sabur wrote about this, and it is a roadmark for justice for families, if you would get that. Student Minister Abdul Sabur Muhammad, Oakland Mosque number 26B. But that centerpiece right now, I want to call attention to. Check that out. The critical hour demands building a future for ourselves and our people. Why do I have that there? Because can we keep our wits about us as the world is falling apart? I do want to say one thing, and we keep the picture right there. I want to highlight from our editor, Richard Muhammad, The Color of Compassion. His editorial deals with what many are shaking heads about right now. Just unbelievable. I refuse to show the image. I'm still hot about it. Yes, I am. These hugs and this hair petting and all of this bleeding heartism that flew out for ex-cop Amber Geiger after she was convicted. As someone noted, was she handcuffed? She wasn't handcuffed leaving the court. In fact, she was given a Bible. So a lot of this is addressed in Brother Richard Muhammad's editorial, The Color of Compassion. But I want to get back to that centerpiece right there from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because as we see what appears to be, which really is the world falling around us at every turn, we have something to do, because our world is climbing. We're on the resurrection, the rise. We don't have to go down with our open enemy. So I just want to let you know that that article is an excerpt from Minister Farrakhan's message, which was delivered on the 16th anniversary of the Million Man March and Holy Day of Atonement commemoration. That was in Philadelphia at the time. And you can read that center story at finalcall.com. Minister Farrakhan tells us the time for marching is over. We've done that, and we have accomplished a lot through quote unquote marches. Through the Million Man March, we proved that we can rise above our differences, because the cause, and he capitalized, the cause for which we were rising was greater than the things that divided us. So we came together to produce the greatest gathering ever to be seen in America, not by black people, but by anybody. So those are the excerpts from the Final Call for the Justice Report. And if we could show the LA Sentinel collage, I would like to highlight something there, which is very important and near and dear to my heart. Let me find it. And thank you all for tuning in. I put my picture somewhere else, but what I want to highlight is this, because I have it right at the top of my head. In the Los Angeles Sentinel at lasentinel.net, the Los Angeles Sentinel highlights the Taste of Soul is coming. Love, food, family, right here on Crenshaw Boulevard. They're going to shut it down for the Taste of Soul, created by our brother Danny Bakewell Sr., who is a publisher of the LA Sentinel and the LA Watch Times. So the LA Sentinel has our great sister, one half of Mary. Oh, God, forgive me. Her name is escaping me, but I will pull that image up. They are going to be hosting the gospel stage, which is in dedication to our own sister, our ancestor, Brenda Marsh Mitchell. So that's one thing. Also out of the LA Sentinel, we have Reverend Cecil Murray. Reverend Dr. Cecil Murray has just celebrated his 90th birthday in September. So shout out to you, LA Sentinel, for covering that. I did also want to bring news to you out of the our weekly to start, but we will get to that in the near future, okay? So that's the Justice Report. Now I want to just highlight some things. I'm sorry, that's not the Justice Report. I do need to go further into justice for Joshua Brown. We talked about the little brother who testified in the Amber Geiger case a little bit in the opening, but I want to just play a clip that is posted on Attorney Lee Merritt's page. Attorney Lee Merritt, who is representing the family of Botham John in the civil suit, but also supported, of course, the criminal trial with evidence. And then I'll come back and tell you a little bit about his sentiments of what's happening around the killing of Joshua Brown. Here's Attorney Lee Merritt.
I can't say I seen him. I heard him in there.
Okay, when you say you heard him, what did you mean?
Heard him singing every morning.
Okay, you heard him singing. What kind of things did you hear him sing?
Gospel music, Drake.
And your door is directly across the hall from where Mr. Jones' apartment was, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so in the mornings, were you inside of your apartment when you heard Mr. Jones singing, or outside of your apartment?
I'll probably hear him when I come out, lock my door. I'll hear him.
Okay. So from in the hallway, you can hear his activities inside his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? You have to say it out loud. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Now approach, Your Honor.
Yes. Here.
Thank you.
Wow. May Allah be pleased with you. May Allah be pleased with Brother Joshua Brown. I want to share some things with you. That was the brother testifying. He said it was clearly very, very hard. I want to share some things from Attorney Lee Merritt as we get ready to, in about maybe 6 minutes here, hopefully, God willing, from Student Minister Demetric Muhammad. And so, one thing Attorney Merritt says, and this is on his Twitter page for all to view, at Merritt Law, that's MERIT Law. He says he wants to be clear about something. I am not saying, this is Attorney Merritt, I am not saying that law enforcement played a role in the murder of Joshua Brown. I am saying that the possibility of law enforcement involvement cannot be ruled out at this point. This is in reply to countless people, of course, online, barbershops, wherever the dialogue is being had, speculating that, asserting that outright. And so this is Attorney Merritt's opinion about that. Another thing that he says is that Joshua Brown, he laid out that he was killed after being shot several times by an unknown assailant. According to Attorney Merritt, local media had begun reporting on the shooting, but have not confirmed, they did not confirm that it was Joshua Brown at that time. Because Brown worked closely with prosecutors just a week ago to ensure that Amber Geiger was properly convicted in the murder trial, the DA's office has fairly direct contact with Brown and his family. So he's saying that Brown was still visibly shaken up from the incident, meaning John's murder. And he also says that a former athlete turned entrepreneur, Joshua Brown, lived in constant fear that he could be the next victim of gun violence, either state sanctioned or otherwise. So Attorney Lee Merritt said that we have more work to deal with the constant threats to our community, both from within and without. Something else that I just saw from him coming in is that figuring out what happened to Joshua Brown will take something we just haven't mastered yet, and that's unity. That is really powerful, Attorney Merritt. And I want to repeat that. Figuring out what happened to Joshua Brown will take something we haven't mastered yet, unity. You know, I really love that tweet from him. Another that he's just dropping the bomb on me here. Attorney Lee Merritt says the state knew Joshua Brown didn't want to testify due to concerns for his safety. He flew to California when the trial began. The state threatened him with jail if he didn't return. He went straight from the airport to court. Dallas County has a duty to protect him. They failed. There's also a tweet going out. It's on Attorney Merritt's page. Someone posted, shaking my head. Listen, after the witness asked to be excused, meaning Joshua Brown, the judge said, quote, of course, I'm surprised he came, unquote. This is all on Attorney Lee Merritt's page. So there is a push to find out what happened to Joshua Brown. His family, his mother is devastated. We all are. He was a key witness in the murder. People want answers. They want answers. They want answers. And we should not let this go. We should feel their pain, and we should be looking for the same thing. So we're going to be talking soon again to Student Minister Demetric Muhammad as we transition into the Hail Elijah celebration and the commentary from him, analysis on the most powerful black man in America. But I'm going to check the page right now to see what are your thoughts and comments about what happened to this little brother. I mean, there is a lot of head shaking going on about it. Make no mistake about it. What do you think this means? Like, I wonder, what does this mean for people now participating? We're finally getting people to become jurors and to testify again. Remember, according to Attorney Merritt, Joshua Brown left. He came to California, and they threatened him, and he went back. Edith Malachi says ridiculously tomfoolery, exactly with what's happening. One thing I did see Attorney Merritt saying in an online a national news interview was that Joshua Brown was set to testify in an upcoming case regarding a shooting where he was wounded at a nightclub in Dallas. And according to Attorney Merritt and the report, Brother Joshua felt that he was the target, and he felt that people were still out to get him. And Attorney Merritt, in fact, said during the interview that there was a post on one of Joshua Brown's social media pages that said, "Now we know where you are." And the post was deleted. And now the little brother is dead. And so all of this reminds me of the calls that we have to become jurors, to testify, to do those things that we know are not snitching, but as in we are taught in the Nation of Islam, we report, right? Report all slackness, weakness, and wrongdoing. And so the brother did what we would want him to do if any of our loved ones were at risk there. So again, may Allah be pleased with you, Brother Joshua Brown. We're now going to give a call to student minister Demetric Muhammad, who will take us into our Hail Elijah segment. As we do that, I just want to read a little bit to you. Pardon me, I forgot to send this message to our dear sister, but I want to read a little bit to you from Brother Demetric's book. Very great author, prolific author. If you go to researchminister.com, you can find all of his work there. He's got so many different books. As a matter of fact, I think I should take time to highlight them for you, but I'll start with this one, The Hidden History of the Most Powerful Black Man in America. This is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother Demetric writes, Hoover could not stop him. That's J. Edgar Hoover, former head of the FBI. For years, the Bureau has operated a counterintelligence program against the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad. Despite these efforts, he continues unchallenged in the leadership of the Nation of Islam and the organization itself in terms of membership and finances, has been unaffected. Special agent in charge in Chicago FBI. This was a memo, April 22nd, 1968. So now they want to hide him. Student Minister Demetric says, now he'll get more into that when he comes. I'm going to send the image because it's really beautiful. Hail Elijah. Hallelujah. This is by Demetric, and it has a picture of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan there as well, his national representative. So get your copy of that today at researchminister.com, researchminister.com. Do we have Brother Demetric? Wonderful. Brother Demetric, Assalamu alaikum. Talk black to me. Oh, okay. We'll get you back, Brother Demetric. I was like, talk black to me. In the meantime, I want to send the image. Researchminister.com. Researchminister.com is where you can get that on Hail Elijah. The reason we bring this segment out is because October 7th, yesterday, was the birth anniversary of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We call it Savior's Day. Thus, on October 13th, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will be given a great, grand, glorious address from Christ Universal Temple. Where were you for the Million Man March? I know I was listening with every bated breath, looking at all of the images at, I worked at a law firm. Forgive me, I'm doing a lot. I'm sending a picture to Sister Poetess. But I worked at a law firm. Hey, Alvin Pittman, Christy, Philip Buckner. Love you guys. And they were at court somewhere. I had done all my work, but I was just sitting like this, listening to the Million Man March on KJLH. Thank you so much for Carl Nelson and Brother Jamal Goree, who at the time were producing and hosting Front Page. And they ran KJLH, dedicated the whole day to the march. Thank you, Brother Stevie Wonder. And so on my lunch break, I went home to watch it and then never went back to work that day. But we do have Brother Demetric on. Let's bring him in. Brother Demetric, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. And happy Savior's Day.
Happy Savior's Day to you as well.
Praise be. Brother Demetric, we know you're doing the mighty work down there in the prisons. So thank you for taking time out to come on to Liberated Sisters and talk to us about one of your great groundbreaking books, Hail Elijah. So,
yes.
Yeah, I want to start right there with how did the idea for this book come about, and does it deal with much of the history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or what is it?
Well, again, I really am very appreciative of the opportunity to come on and to talk about, a very important subject, and certainly one of my favorite subjects, being a student of Minister Farrakhan, to talk about his beloved teacher and the eternal leader of the nation of Islam, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Mm-hmm. And the book that you're referencing is entitled Hail Elijah, Hallelujah. Mm-hmm. And it examines the impact and the importance of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad on Black America and the world. It seeks to vindicate his claims to be a divine messenger from God and explains how his life, his teachings, the opposition that he faced, his success and his achievements are fulfillment of many of the scriptures found in the Bible, the Quran, and the global expectation of people around the world for a messianic figure who would appear at the end of this day and time. But not only does it do that, but it publishes for the first time a very powerful catalog of testimony of very prominent and powerful men and women from various disciplines and walks of life who testify of how they were benefited, how they were impacted, and what they thought of the man that has become a hidden figure in Black history, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So we are really very proud of that work, and we could never thank Almighty God, Allah, enough for blessing us as a people with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Absolutely, and all praise is due to Allah. And we see in this beautiful image of the book, oh my God, Hail Elijah, look at that crown, that fez. We see our beloved brother minister, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right there, whom we thank Allah for so much, because but for him, where would we be? Where would we be? We wouldn't even know Elijah. Like, he rebuilt this man's work from the ground up. Brother Demetric, talk about that.
Well, yeah, as you can see in the cover, we include, images of prominent people, folk that certainly the general public are familiar with, and they were admirers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But the one that we have there at the end is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and his photo is in color, and it is clear. And the significance of that is to say that because of the view that Minister Farrakhan possesses of his teacher, he has achieved so much more than all the rest, even though they were great brothers and sisters, prominent men and women. The achievements of Minister Farrakhan, at the root of his achievements, is the proper view of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because many people acknowledge the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a builder of institutions. He built a nation inside of a nation. He popularized the term black. He's one of the fathers of black consciousness. He produced so many luminaries who were his students: Malcolm X, Imam Wahiduddin Muhammad, Dr. Naeem Akbar, groups like Kool and the Gang, the Delphonics. They numbered among the registered membership of the Nation of Islam. But inasmuch as people identified the real-world secular success and achievements of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was Minister Farrakhan who saw deeper into the man to see that he really was and is an anointed and divine servant of Almighty God, Allah, and the man to whom so much of biblical and Quranic expectation was written about. And so the minister is still peerless in his achievements, not just as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but even as a black leader, because no other black leader was able to even conceptualize calling for 1 million men to assemble anywhere. But Minister Farrakhan conceptualized it, called for it, and to show that God was with him in making the call, nearly 2 million men and women showed up to answer the call made by the minister. And the minister will tell you he did that based upon his guidance that he received from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So the minister is the witness of the divinity of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, while there may be many others who can witness his economic and social and political achievements. We thank Allah that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan exists as the witness for his divine identity.
Praise be to Allah. Absolutely, Brother Demetric. And then an identity which, as you said, is, right? Because he is indeed still alive. Can you delve into that for those who still yet believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is deceased? There was a body, there was a funeral. Talk about that in the context of one of the reasons why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is so powerful, that he is drawing on a living well.
Well, in 1981, Minister Farrakhan stood before the world to proclaim that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is not dead, but that he is alive. And Minister Farrakhan's faith in his teacher being alive, the minister would tell you that has been the fuel, that has been the energy that has caused him to continue to work at the terrific pace that he has worked at, and to be guided to provide the kinds of solutions to the problems of our people that the minister has uniquely provided. And so the minister's faith in his teacher being alive caused many of us to adopt the same faith. And we believe because of the minister's faith. His faith in his teacher produced faith in us. And then after we began to study his faith, we begin to find out that the minister's faith is vindicated when you search the scriptures and when you search the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because even his son, Imam Warithuddin, had to admit in his first interview after inheriting the leadership of the Nation of Islam in 1975, he was asked, why did not your father talk to the believers about his passing? He said that, well, my father said that he would not die, that he would leave and go away and be with his teacher. When we studied even more, we found that there were letters written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to certainly a man familiar on the West Coast, Minister Jibril Muhammad, who lived with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for 6 years and was not only a minister, but was a personal disciple and student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he shared correspondence where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described how he would escape a death plot. And all of this, if we had time, we could delve into much deeper because it carries us into certain scriptures in the Bible, certain scriptures in the Quran, as well as things the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in his speech, The Theology of Time. And so I'm just very thankful for the minister's faith because his faith was so strong that it compelled many of us to believe, even before we ever studied and looked into it, we knew that what we saw in Minister Farrakhan could not be the result of his belief in a dead man. The minister has been the antithesis of death. He has been the embodiment of life, physical life, mental life, and certainly strong spiritual life. And that could not come from following and subscribing to the teachings and the leadership of a dead man.
Absolutely. All praise is due to Allah. And we'll need to take that time to lay that out one day. Maybe we can do a pre-record and
that would be
give
great.
it a couple
I
of
would love
hours.
To unpack that, yeah.
Yeah, I think
that.
It's good and dutiful, because you have a lot of people that just don't know, and we have to make sure that people get the word. And thank you for that you gave, Brother Demetric. And we want to be, as you and I talked about before, cautious and careful in making sure, as a minister mandates of us, instructs us, and guides us, right, to not just throw something. These are not the minister's words. It's mine. Throw something down the people's throat, right, or push something on them without the context so that there's not an understanding. So I would love to do that, and I think that we will do that. We'll just get a date that's good for you as well as the studio, and we'll set it up.
That would be awesome.
We'll set it up. So tell me, if you could, some of the testimony that some of our prominent and leaders, entertainers, whomever you spoke to, those voices shared about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which to me is like father and son, the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, Hail Elijah is like a companion to the book we did called Who Do They Say I Am? And both of those books really were purposed to collect the testimonies because, as you and I both know, the leadership of both men has come under much criticism and much opposition. Mm-hmm. And within the scriptures, the value of the testimony of the believers as well as the testimony of all is a lot of value and importance is attached to it. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to show that even those who are outside of the nation's membership had described both Minister Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in glowing terms because their enemies and their opponents in media and in government often hide the complimentary statements, the impactful testimonies from prominent men and women because, in their estimation, they think that if some prominent mainstream person says something good about Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad, then that somehow legitimizes them.
And they punish them.
If you're a messenger of God, then those who may be prominent in the mainstream world, they are in fact legitimized by being in a photo op or being in some way helpful to the man that's God's messenger.
That's
not the other way around. Is that the messenger of God legitimizes all others. All others don't legitimate or legitimize the messengers of God. But that being said, in Hail Elijah, I think the readers will be fascinated to see testimonies from people like James Baldwin. There was a new documentary from James Baldwin about a year ago, and of course, he is celebrated oftentimes as a pioneering member of the LGBT community, a writer, a compassionate brother for his people, and he had a great admiration for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, and we include his testimonies. Matter of fact, his book, The Fire Next Time, is inspired by the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We even include probably never before published testimonies from one of the three famous civil rights workers, Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner. Andrew Goodman, who for many years was promoted by the Anti-Defamation League as an example of the Jews who sacrificed in the civil rights movement. Andrew Goodman wrote an extensive essay on the Nation of Islam and explaining the Nation of Islam, its value and its teachings and his admiration for them during the 1960s while he was in college. And so we include his testimony in there as well. And there are numerous entertainers, athletes, I.C. Davis, Ruby D., mayors, Congress people, Dick Gregory. I mean, it's a who's who of prominent folk who are going on the record saying what they thought about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Brother Dimitri. And I have to apologize to you. I didn't give you your just due when I introduced you because we talk, and I'm a student of yours, right? And so I'm just acting like the viewers and the listeners are too, like they know you. But Brother Dimitri is not only one of our student ministers in Memphis, but he is a member of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's research team at NOI Research Group. He is the research minister. He's many books. Brother Dimitri, how many books have you written now?
I think 10, but I'm not for certain. I don't count.
Good. Wow, 10. How fabulous. Yeah, super author. And he does work with the prison ministry and on and on and on. Of course, husband and father, brother, right? But I failed to say that, Brother Dimitri, so pardon me.
No, it's fine. I don't talk about myself. I'm interested in talking about my teacher.
That's right. And we'll continue. No, but I just, for those who don't know, thank you for that. Talking about your teacher, what goes into your research? I always marvel at you all because, as the minister says, he has stacks and stacks. Like, I've seen the binder, really power-packed information that's really deep. When you start writing about things like Hail Elijah and your other books, which I'll give out some of the names, which you can get at researchminister.com, what goes into researching God? That's what I want to ask you.
Well, I mean, you have to be in love with the subject to really devote yourself to it, and have a sincere desire to want to defend and to vindicate the truth and those that have been the teachers of that truth to us, namely Minister Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and so that's the root of it. And I think that the fact that we are in a atmosphere of opposition, so the defense of the truth is a form of fighting. So the Quran teaches us that fighting is prescribed for us. And the believers are always enjoined in Scripture to fight in defense of the faith. And so some of us used to fight in the streets, and some of us fought growing up, and we may have even had, fights as adults. But when you can begin to see value in the defense of the truth, that is the greatest of all fights. And so I'm honored to be able to do some small thing or some small work that may bring ease or happiness or joy or a smile to the face of my teacher, Minister Farrakhan, whom we all have witnessed give his life for more than 64 years to the cause of the liberation of his people. And yet, even though the minister, Sister Charlene, has defended so many people, he has defended all of our great ones whenever they get into a situation and their reputation is on the line and they're losing their careers. And the minister helps the general public to see that, hey, this is a good man, this is a good brother, a good sister. We should support them in their hour of need. Yet, when he is being attacked, when he's being slandered, when he's being libeled, when he's being misrepresented, we see none of those that he helped come to help him. And so there's a growing number of us who just really feel that that is unacceptable. And I don't mind saying that, I'll be the leader of that brigade if I have to, that we're no longer going to allow our beloved minister to be used as a political football or a punching bag.
That's right.
You know,
give me a flag. I'm on that team.
you will hear from us. You know, and so that's just how that goes.
Yeah.
So
that's right. I love how it's handled too, Brother Demetric, right? People get down in the gutter. They say such foul and filthy things about this person they don't even know, who, as you said, is sacrificing every day, every minute, right? So nasty, so savage. But you and the research team, the nation, just comes right out with facts, research, history. You counter that, and there's nothing that can be refuted about what you say. But it's so beautiful because it's without vitriol, right? So those attackers, and I think naysayers an understatement, but the hateful ones really can't do anything but deal with that truth. They're not able to say, look, they're cussing me out, or they're, being racist. Or they can't say anything except they have to deal with that truth. And in your history, can you just talk about some of the reaction when there's not a response, right? For instance, how the ministers consistently called for a showdown with his powerful enemies. They will not deal with that truth, and they will not come out. Can you just talk about that in the next few minutes before we close out? Probably in about 5 minutes. We'll be here 5 minutes.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're right. The minister gives us guidance and has reminded us that we must represent the principles of our faith even as we defend our faith.
That's right.
We can't say we are defending a faith that teaches us to be upright men and women and moral people and people of strong character and goodwill, and then defend that faith, using skullduggery and mockery and ad hominem attacks and hyperbolic emotional statements. And so the minister has guided us. And as you pointed out, the truth is so compelling that those who oppose him, the last thing they want to do is to have, as you called it and as he styled it, a showdown in the public where we can air out, our issues before the sharp minds of the people, so that the people can see that once and for all, what Minister Farrakhan is saying is based on truth. It's uncomfortable truth. It's painful truth, but it is the truth. And sometimes, if we remember when we were growing up, Grandma would give us some castor oil or something like that when we were sick or had a cold, and it may have tasted bad going down, but guess what? If we took the medicine, we could get well. And so it is truth, the minister has said, is the greatest thing that we have.
That's it.
And if the leaders within the society would make a commitment to adhere to the truth, then we could chart a course for the healing of a nation. But to the degree that the truth and the teacher of the truth is vehemently opposed, then we become a society whose fate is sealed in doom, and that doom coming from God himself, as it has been written of in the scriptures. And so we would hope that, there would be wise men among the opponents of the minister who would say, let us go and reason together and to deal with the truth that we might correct the wrong. Since we are on the eve of the Holy Day of Atonement, and one of the principles of atonement is the pointing out of the wrong, the acknowledgement of the wrong, and the correcting of the wrong.
Show that.
Then certainly we should be interested in the atonement process. And I would hope that Minister Farrakhan's opponents, many from groups like the ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center, they celebrate the day of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement in their faith. Well, why not atone with Minister Farrakhan? Why not apologize for having slandered him and libeled him and seeking to marginalize him and calling for his death? Why not atone for that so that God would look upon you with favor? Should not it be clear that the minister is an anointed servant of God if you remain an opponent to God's servant, how do you think God will react? The scriptures describe him, says that the Lord thy God is a man of war.
Oh.
So when I was a young person, the old folks used to tell me when I was acting a fool, said, son, your arms are too short to box with God. So you might as well straighten up and fly right, because you don't want to receive a chastisement from God. And I would hope that Minister Farrakhan's opponents would at least be that wise.
Yes. I mean, look, let's abase ourselves, lower ourselves before he has to, because we can. You're right. Take it from God. And thank you for what you mentioned, because you brought to mind that we had the photo there of the 8 steps of atonement. We are in the season of atonement, which was really the centerpiece of the Million Man March. 8 steps of atonement, that the brothers gathered on the mall to atone, right, Brother Demetrius? So these are the 8 steps we can practice, whomever we are, whatever the problem is, take the steps. And we're taught, right, if you do this and the other person doesn't receive it or does not want to atone, then it's off of you, right, Student Minister Demetrius?
Yes. When you make yourself open for atonement, and be a party to the process yourself, because we can all, if we are candid, say that there is someone that we may have offended or done something wrong to. Let's go and make an atonement.
Right away.
There's a prayer in the scripture that says, forgive those that trespass against us and forgive us for trespassing against others, or something like that.
Yeah.
So, we all need to be involved in that process. But even if we are not involved in that process, or not on the receiving end, I should say, of those who have wronged us, we should not allow that to stop us from going to those that we have wronged and making an atonement, which is more than an apology, I will just add.
Yeah.
But atonement involves some act of expiation.
Yeah.
You cannot have robbed me of $1,000 and just come and say, brother, I'm sorry. Well, I accept your apology, but repay my $1,000.
Yeah.
That's how you correct the wrong. You got to correct the wrong. Sometimes, we can minimize atonement and say, well, I apologize. No, there are 8 steps.
That's right.
You actually have to correct the wrong. And then that person gets determined whether or not they want to come back into a perfect union with you as they were before you breached the union due to your bad act.
That's right.
But it is a process, and it involves us to grow and mature spiritually.
Yeah. Brother Dimitri, thank you so much, because, sometimes we do see fly by or drive by atonements. I'm sorry, I atone with you.
Exactly.
You're right in the same place tomorrow, next week, next year, wondering why, right? There are 8 steps. Right. And sometimes you don't even know that you did something, but you can feel the energy. There's something different in a relationship, in people's interaction. Go to that person. If you don't know, but you sense something, have I done something to offend you? But sometimes people will lay out a lot of stuff too, Brother Dimitri, that really is not true. What do you do about that?
Well, again, that's the principle of truth. We have to agree on principles of truth, and we have to deal with facts and evidence. And so again, it's a process of atonement. It's not okay, I'm going to go over here and atone.
It's real.
No, atonement takes time.
Yeah.
Especially when there are serious issues that are the subject of your atonement. If I accidentally stepped on your foot, you know what I mean? Okay, we can atone. I can buy you some new shoes, or pay for the doctor to fix your toes, right?
Yeah.
That's easy. But sometimes in our community, we have issues that have been protracted over a period of time, that have become chronic ways of dealing with each other.
Gangbanging.
And so we have to really seriously understand and be patient to go through the process. And again, the atonement can only be done from those who have a humble heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Atonement is not the fruit of arrogance or vanity. You can only atone if you lower yourself and acknowledge that you have been wrong, and not just pay lip service to it, but sincerely seek to do something to repair the wrong. So if you don't, in that analogy I gave, maybe you don't have the 1,000, but maybe you got 500. So put the 500 down in the brother's hand and say, well, brother, in 30 days I'll get you the other 500.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Or
wow.
even if it's 10, you know, start the process. You know, put forth a good faith effort to come back into good relationships with one another. And I close that point by saying this. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, coined a hadith. And in this hadith, he sounds a lot similar to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that it is more important to teach separation than prayer. But he was saying that separation was a resolution to the conflict between the two peoples who were at odds in America, namely the American black man and the American white man. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was criticized for that. But Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, told his companions, he said, do you know what is better than prayer? What is better than fasting? What is better than charity? He said, no, because these were the pillars of the faith, and they couldn't imagine anything being greater. And the prophet said, that which is greater than all of these is the resolving of conflict between brothers.
Wow.
And so it's a vindication of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, because he was preaching separation as a resolution to our conflict with our slave masters' children. But it even takes it several steps further, because the prophet said that conflict resolution and atonement is a tool in the toolbox for conflict resolution. He said conflict resolution is better than prayer, fasting, and charity.
Because how can you have those with no peace?
Exactly.
Brother Dimitri, thank you so much. That's our time for today. But two things on the table. One, we will schedule that pre-record so we can lay out the foundational information about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as we said. And number two, NOI Sundays is the hashtag NOI Sundays for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's address this Sunday around the world. You can tap into it at your local mosque here at 8701 South Vermont. And also researchminister.com for more on Brother Dimitri, as well as his books and the research group. Brother Dimitri, thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate you always.
Thank you, dear sister. I appreciate you as well. May Allah continue to bless you.
Thank you. Likewise.
And your family.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad saying thank you, Sister Felicia, the Poetess Morris. And if it's impacting our community or can uplift us as a people, let's talk about it. Peace.